Imagine putting in the hours, doing the hard work, and then nothing. Your paycheck is just missing. It is literally one of the most stressful things a worker can face, right? You traded your time and labor, and when that basic agreement gets broken, it just throws your entire life off balance. Well, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to walk through a super clear, step-by-step guide to reclaiming your unpaid wages in Virginia. So, did your employer shortchange you? It's a really frustrating question to even have to ask, but honestly, it is way more common than you might think. Wage theft doesn't always look like a boss just flat out refusing to hand you a check. Sometimes it happens right there in the margins. Maybe you suddenly realized your hours were cut on your pay stub with zero explanation. Or maybe your rightful overtime got denied. Or, a final paycheck just mysteriously never arrived after you left a job. Whatever your specific scenario is, that missing money is yours. And realizing it's gone, that is a massive pain point for countless workers across Virginia every single year. I really want you to keep this specific thought right at the front of your mind. You worked hard for those wages and do not want to miss the opportunity to collect what is rightfully yours. Look, it's super easy to feel powerless when your employer is the one holding the purse strings, but the law is actually designed to empower you. You're not just a victim of some payroll error here. You are a proactive claimant with real rights. And today, we're going to learn exactly how to navigate the system to enforce them. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap. First, we'll cover understanding your wage rights, then preparing your wage claim. Next, we'll hit the step-by-step filing process, followed by what happens after filing, and we'll wrap up with the conclusion and disclaimer. Section 1. Understanding your wage rates. The state is actually constantly evolving to protect workers. Case in point, under the 2026 Virginia legislative update, the minimum wage is now set at $12.77 an hour. If your employer is paying you a base rate lower than that, they are straight up violating state law, and they can face severe penalties for undercutting those mandates. Now, the absolutely crucial thing you need to know about is the Virginia Wage Payment Act, or VWPA. Think of this as the bedrock of your protection. The VWPA mandates that private employers have to establish regular pay periods. So if you're a salary, you have to be paid at least once a month. Hourly, you've got to be paid at least once every 2 weeks or twice a month. Plus, it strictly outlaws withholding any part of your pay without your written authorization, aside from standard taxes. And here is the real kicker. If an employer knowingly fails to pay your wages, a court can actually award damages of up to 3 times the unpaid wages owed to you, plus reasonable attorney's fees and interest. So yeah, this law has some serious teeth. But there is a catch, and that catch is the number 3. You have a strict 3-year statute of limitations to file a wage claim under Virginia law. That means you've got to file your claim within 3 years from the exact date your employer should have paid you. Do not wait on this. Waiting just makes evidence so much harder to track down, and it puts your hard-earned money at risk of just expiring under the statute.
Section 2. Preparing your wage claim.
So you can't just call up the state, say you weren't paid, and expect a check to show up the next day, right? You have to build a really strong foundation first. You need to gather your arsenal. The Department of Labor and Industry, we'll just call them DOLE from here on out, relies heavily on written evidence when they evaluate claims. So pull together your pay stubs, your time records, and honestly, even personal notes you took tracking your hours if the official records are missing or if your boss is disputing them. Dig up your employment agreements or contracts. Print out emails, text messages, anything where compensation, hours, or unpaid wages were discussed with your employer. This documentation, it's basically the armor for your claim. Before we go further, let's do a quick eligibility check. DOLI investigates claims based on where the work actually happened. So let's say an out-of-state employer hired you, but you did the work in Virginia. You're covered. What if you live in another state entirely, but you commuted over the border to work in Virginia? Still covered. As long as the labor was actually performed within Virginia's borders, you are protected under these specific state laws. Moving on to Section 3, step-by-step filing process. This is where we take action. You basically have 2 different pathways to file. The first one, and honestly the one we strongly recommend, is the DOLE online portal. It's purely electronic, and it is by far the fastest way to get your claim submitted and your evidence uploaded. Your other option is the physical paper claim form. Now, if you go this route, you have to print out the 2-page form, sign it with an actual original ink signature, and mail it through the U.S. Postal Service down to their Richmond headquarters. And heads up, they have a really strict policy here. Absolutely no faxes or emails are accepted for paper claims. If you try to just email them a PDF of the form, it's going to get rejected. Since the online portal is way more efficient, let's quickly summarize how that digital process works. It's actually really simple, so please don't let the idea of a government website intimidate you. It boils down to 3 easy steps. First, you register a Dolly account. Second, you complete your personal profile. And third, you select your claim type and submit. Let's walk through what you'll actually be doing. For the initial registration, you'll just provide your email address, create a username, and set up a secure password. Standard stuff. You'll also need to punch in a quick security code from an image just to prove you're an actual human being and not a bot. Once you hit register, the system is going to ask you to verify your email address. Okay, once you're fully registered, it's time to update your profile. Now pay super close attention to the drop-down menu labeled relationship type. It is absolutely essential that you select claimant from that list. Doing that ensures the system routes you correctly and actually gives you access to the right wage claim forms. With your profile good to go, you'll land on a main dashboard. From there, you just click on the I Want To drop-down menu and select Submit a Payment of Wage Claim. After that, the portal just guides you right through entering your employer's details, exactly how much money you are owed, and it gives you a spot to upload all that documentary armor you gathered earlier. Section 4. What happens after filing? All right, so you've hit submit, and your claim is officially in the state's hands. Here's a broad look at the timeline you can expect from here. On day 1, the moment your claim is accepted, DOLI starts its investigation. They're likely going to reach out to both you and your employer. Then, weeks later, if your employer pushes back and disputes the claim, there might be an administrative hearing. And finally, if the state decides in your favor, a post-decision deadline kicks in. That gives the employer just 18 days to pay up the wages they owe you. Let's demystify that middle step for a second. The informal fact-finding conference. I know, it sounds super intimidating, right? But it's really just an administrative hearing, and very often it's just conducted over the phone. A DALI officer leads the call, and both you and your employer get the chance to present your evidence and make your arguments. This right here is exactly why we spent time preparing your arsenal of documents. And it's important to note, you are absolutely allowed to bring an attorney to represent you during this call if you feel like you need some legal backup. But wait, what happens if the employer just ignores the DOLI order entirely and still refuses to pay after that 18-day deadline? We get this question all the time. Well, if an employer decides to be stubborn, DOLI actually has the power to escalate things. They can file an order with the Virginia Circuit Court to force collection through the judicial system. Or, thanks to updated laws, you as the employee have the right to pursue a private civil lawsuit directly against the employer. And remember, that's where you could potentially secure those triple damages we talked about earlier. Section 5. Conclusion and Disclaimer. The whole point of this explainer is to give you the knowledge you need to take back control. But remember, wage theft claims have very strict deadlines. The clock literally starts ticking the moment your payday is missed. You have to act quickly if you want to preserve your right to full compensation. So organize your records tonight, log on to that DOLI portal tomorrow, and take proactive steps to hold your employer accountable. Your hard-earned money is always, always worth fighting for. Just before we go, please note this brief disclaimer. This explainer is intended for general informational purposes only and does not constitute formal legal counsel. Employment law can be highly individualized, so please definitely seek professional legal advice from a licensed Virginia attorney for your specific situation. And with that, I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. If the law guarantees your right to a fair wage, what is stopping you from claiming what is rightfully yours today?